Even the army can't stop that creature.
No, but maybe we turtles can, with a little rocket power.
Someone keeps eating my yogurt.
What kind of yogurt?
I was saving that for after my run, David.
Oh my god, I guess I was saving it for during your run then.
Hey, Robbie, we're not gonna bust your chops for trying to impress a girl.
I can't believe she's dead.
It's the Al Travis Show. We've got her, Senator Susan Kent, with Yeah But, or Clean Up in Aisle 9. Senator, we went to break. I was completely wrong. I will honestly, I didn't watch the whole thing because I had a little fun. Watching the governor, he comes on and he's got all the major people behind him and he's talking about the fact they have done it. They come up with the framework for making this whole session last. We're going to get on this. No one got what they wanted. Everybody got a little something they did want. We should be happy and thrilled. And you start hearing the banging on the door, like the Fuller brush salesman trying to break in and sell you something. And they're screaming. You're like, and me, I'm like, oh, there's some Republicans who are really ticked off. They're not happy. And then they go outside and say, wait a minute. It's all Democrats. 20, 30 of them, House members, Senate members. Can you give me your thoughts when you first saw it? Did you know instantly what they were upset about? I was taken back.
Yeah, so I heard about it a little bit after the fact, so I didn't see that. I know people who were sort of watching that in real time, and I was not one of them. So by the time I heard about it, I knew what was going on. And we've talked about this some, and I maintain this. There are the official processes, but then there's the sort of underlying reality of things. And one of the reasons we can't ever finish things on time is because especially if you've got divided legislature, it involves compromise. And when you compromise on things that people care dearly about, any earlier than absolutely necessary, you're coming in for big blowback. Yep. And that happens absolutely on both sides of the aisle. And so that's why people delay. That's why these conversations happen behind closed doors. There were some interesting quotes today from Amy Koch, former Senate Majority Leader, Republican, and Melissa Hortman, Speaker Emerita, Democrat, that I think absolutely nail that dynamic. And so that's kind of what happened. And this happens to be an issue that Democrats really, really care about in terms of making sure that people have health care, both from a place of compassion, right? But also from a practical place, because we know that when people who live in this country don't have access to proper health care, they will end up in a crisis situation in an emergency room. We also know that Medicaid is vital to our rural healthcare system and our hospitals. And if we complicate Medicaid and hospitals, that complicates it for everybody. So there's a real pragmatic financial reason to not do this. So,
but let's talk this process.
That this is the way this went.
Folks can think that's true, and all that you said, that if illegal immigrants here can get health care and you want it, I have no problem with it. You voted in when you had the three chairs. I get it, but we're not in that anymore.
Right.
I cannot believe Senator Murphy, who has done this for a while, did not have the conversation with the caucus, the rest of them, before she signed off, right? The powers that be got together and signed this thing. She had to have brought it up. She had to know some people were mad. Did she know they're that mad? I doubt it. I presume an hour later they come. You know what I'm saying? You were in that spot. You had to talk to these people.
Well,
you wouldn't go in blind.
And I was in the minority, and I'm going to go back to my point that it's a lot easier when you're fighting against your enemies than when you're fighting with your friends, right? So I don't know what the exact dynamics of this were. I don't know if she had a conversation with them. I don't know if they said, hang on, let me just project what could have happened. I'm thinking, right. But I can also imagine that conversation being, we can't just sit back and accept this. And, and basically from the response that I've seen from all DFL leadership on this one, people are like, yep, elections have consequences. None of us want to do this. But I can't think of what the major ticket items would have been that we would have given in on that would have elicited the same response from them or some other group.
Let me ask you this, though, and I mean this with all due respect with Senator Fatah. I know. Fateh. Okay. I'm going to try to remember. Fateh. He comes out last time with the Uber vote. It was a year ago, and he felt his constituency, and this, by the way, and I give him cred, he went all the way to the mat, right? He went to the mat saying, no, this is what my people want. You're going to give me this or not, and he got it. So I'm giving him street cred. He's one of those 20 or 30 on that left side that really want illegal this Medicare.
And that 20 to 30 is divided between House and Senate, just to be clear.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, but my point is, it only takes one in this mess. I mean, he's got the same power he had last year for Uber.
That's exactly right. Yes.
And my point is, you can only judge a person by what his past, right? I believe on my side, be worried. I believe that and I'm not, again, he's doing what he believes in. He will go to the mat. We've seen him do it. He will take this to June 30th.
It could be anybody, right? I mean,
I agree, but we know him is my point.
Right. But I'm just saying that we all have had the conversation when you have a 1-vote majority, which the majority of my career was, where you had a 1-vote difference in the Senate, that it only takes one person to throw everything out of whack. And somebody talked about, in the fact that the House is 67-67, right? Mm-hmm. That it may have been Lisa Damoth who said this, that, it's actually easier for them because they know they'll be able to get the votes for some of this stuff. Yeah. And a bunch of Democrats don't have to vote for it, right?
But back up
in the Senate, that's a different story, because if they want this to pass, they've got to have all the votes.
But kicking back up to Fateh, I give him street credit. He is doing what he honestly believes is the best thing for his people. I may not agree, but I give him that. But we don't have Republicans that do that. You say that you got to give up and got. What are we going to mat on? We're going to say no new taxes, but then they gave taxes on marijuana, which I really don't care about. But we did. My point is, I want to know that guy who goes to the mat for the Republican side.
I have watched the people go to the mat on the Republican side for years. They just managed to do it mostly behind closed doors. And then they vote in lockstep. And so I mean, one of my classic stories is over that issue of the conversion therapy, quote unquote conversion therapy, because it's not actual therapy, it's not a medical treatment, and a very small handful. And there were absolutely Republican votes for an amendment to ban conversion therapy, there were a group of Republicans in the Senate caucus that said, nope, if that amendment goes on, we will bring down the entire Health and Human Services bill. So these things happen all the time. You just don't hear about them quite as publicly. And,
you hear about it when you knock on the door and the governor is speaking. That's probably very true. I wouldn't have known about how mad they were, except they got themselves on TV to do it. So that's a good point. Yeah. I know you want to talk. And by the way,
this is the same stuff that's happening in Congress, right? I mean, because you've got such factions within the U.S. House Congress Republicans, and they're just all hanging up their morals and values to vote for this bill of Donald Trump's that's going to explode the deficit, and it's going to end up cutting Medicaid and Medicare, which, going back to this, is why it's the same thread with what we're doing in Minnesota. If those cuts come through, that's going to hurt our state. That's going to hurt people, and those are going to hurt our rural hospitals. And it's bad. It's bad.
I find the words you said, it's going to explode the deficit when it cuts a couple $1 trillion, but we're still going in the hole.
It does not. It does
1.6 trillion is what I read yesterday.
But the net of it is exploding at even more trillions. I don't remember the numbers, but
when we were exploding it the last 4 years, I didn't call you exploding it. I didn't hear exploding out of you.
The explosion of the deficit happened under Donald Trump with the 2017 tax bill. And now we're going to expand that further. We're going to extend it, and we're going to grow it, and we're going to make that deficit even worse. And this is an objective score from the Congressional Budget Office, where they look at the language of the bill and see what that's going to do to law, and they show what that's going to happen mathematically. And it's just like when we do our budget forecasts out of MMB. It is nonpartisan, and the major deficit drivers over history have been these tax cuts by George Bush and by Donald Trump that go absolutely overwhelmingly to the wealthiest people.
Well, again, we talked a little bit about that last week. If only the top 50% pay taxes, only the wealthiest then can get a tax break. You don't pay federal taxes, you can't get a tax break. You don't pay in, you don't get a break. So it naturally will go to the richest half of the country. And let's say, my wife was talking this, if I make let's say I make $100,000, I pay X tax. That if we all get the same percentage break, the millionaire is going to get that much more. I get it. I don't know, but here's what I'd like to tell you, because I'm going to be on your side on this. I'm mad as heck at my Republicans in Congress. Complete honesty with you. I don't want the big, fat, beautiful bill. Every one of them should be a separate bill. That's what we keep talking about it down here in the grassroots. When they did the continuing resolution so the government doesn't shut down, it continued all the crap that DOJ found. Well, we're just going to keep going as is until we find something. You're all right. We spending exactly the same amount of money now as we did 6 months ago when we said we weren't going to do this anymore. I'm mad at the Republicans.
More. It's actually more, but okay.
Well, but it's continued the bill that we were going on when we ran saying stop it. I'm okay. Guess what? If they're going to keep the tax cuts so my taxes don't go up, I'm good with that. We need to cut a lot. But this is so much bigger than that. These issues of the stuff that DOJ did was minor, teeny tiny stuff. It's like saying I'm going to quit getting Starbucks for a few weeks, and as if that'll solve my budget problems. It's not making a difference. That what we're going to do is spend a ton of money for these tax breaks for the super rich and the big corporations, because that's what they really want more than anything. And we're gonna spend a lot more money on the military, which we support the military, but we already spend an awful lot on it. How much more do we need to spend? And, well, you'd agree that we could save money if we got out of other wars.
Listen, and we're going to cut significantly Medicaid and Medicare, and in the process, we're still going to run up the deficit even more. The deficit is going up significantly under this big deficit.
I told you, I'm with you. We need to cut. We need to cut more. When you talk the Medicare cuts, as far as I went, I looked it up yesterday. There is a cut. They're looking to cut eligible men 30 years with if you're 30 years old and can work or older and you don't have children, then you don't get Medicaid.
You're talking about Medicaid.
Okay, I'm good with that cut.
And this bill, as apparently came out late last night, this bill will cut not only Medicaid, but it's not targeted that way. They're saying that it's not targeted that way. It's going to cut off a bunch of money, and that money is going to flow back down to the state. So look here in Minnesota, we're already talking about what are we going to do with our budget. And now suddenly we have to either lose people off of Medicaid, which a lot of it is babies, mothers giving birth, and grandparents.
And illegal immigrants who came here, and we want to fight to make sure they get that.
Tiny minus.
See, But what I don't understand is why the principle alone doesn't work. If we spend too much money, we have to cut. That means people get less stuff. That's okay by me, but you're like, it's only a small amount of people robbing from us in fraud, waste, and abuse. We're not going to set up an IG. It's only a small amount of people getting Medicare. Why is small okay? Stop stealing from me.
Because they focus on these little small issues that don't have any impact. If your issue is the deficit, which I think we should all be concerned about, these little pieces don't add up to the problem. But they love to get you focused on them because people get mad. No. Wait a minute, people who are here illegally are getting health care? That's not okay. Well, once you talk about but if you cut the Medicaid that is actually supporting their health well-being, and they're still here, and we're seeing the challenges of trying to magically make a bunch of people who are not here legally disappear.
I got to go. I don't want to cut
easily. It's much more complicated, and it costs more in the long run. Is the point?
I want to leave you a little time on the other side to say something other than goodbye. I would throw this out. You think I'm a knucklehead? I would do this. Alice King for the day. Remember 2019? It was only 6 years ago. Remember 2019 before COVID hit? Do you remember that? Life wasn't perfect. We weren't in horrible shape. I'd go back instantly.
We had a huge deficit.
But it's gone much higher, right? COVID hit, and we added 23. Here's what I would do. Al's a King for the day. You remember that budget in 2019? Bring it up. That's what we're going to work on. That's the base. Now, everything else we added since then, get out of here. We got to go to break.
Won't solve the problem.
But it's going to get us a lot closer than this thing we got going on now, the big, beautiful bill of whatever in the world it is. See, I'm agreeing with you. I know. I got to go to break. Or all you're going to say is, thanks, Al, on the other side. We'll be back after this.
If it's your turn to host a game, Grandpa's Barbecue suggests you try something different. Put out the perfect barbecue flavor of Grandpa's Barbecue. Add it to your ribs, dip the meatballs, or drench your wings in the original flavor of Grandpa's Barbecue. It isn't too hot or spicy, fruity or smoky or whatever. Grandpa's Barbecue. Available in select stores and online at grandpasbarbecueshop.com.
Chanhassen Dinner Theaters brings you its most popular show of all time, Grease. You'll hear all your favorite hits from the Broadway musical and the movie. Join the whole gang at Rydell High. We'll sing, we'll dance, we'll bring you back to high school life in the 50s. Poodle skirts, bobby socks, the soda shop, and drive-in movies. Grease! It'll rock your socks off. Order your tickets today. Visit chanhassendt.com.
Don't need to ask him his opinion more than once. Al Travis on the Al Travis Show.
Senator Susan Kent in with us. Let's just bring it back home real quick. In Minnesota, powers that be came out and said, okay, we're going to do work groups. You can't call them conference committees. Got to have a different name. Makes a difference.
Different rules. Different rules.
Yeah, they signed a thing which almost gave them all the same rules, but it doesn't matter to me. They basically said you got to have your work done by 5 o'clock today. 5 o'clock today, you get it all done. And then we'll probably even look at Friday, having a special set and vote, this thing and be done. Is the only problem is we are in conference committees and not work groups? Because all of a sudden in 2 days, they can get this done? Do you believe it can happen?
Well, the conversations have been going on anyway, and so, and the work groups can potentially let some other people in because of the conference committee. Those are very prescribed into who the people are. And so, I am hopeful that with a little less spotlight that maybe people can just focus on the issues and get it done. And the power of a holiday weekend is significant. For people to say, yep, we could actually get this done quickly and not have to miss, weekend at the lake or my daughter's wedding or whatever. Because those are the things that happen this time of year that are very motivating to get stuff done.
But if I'm not mistaken, so let's say today, they'll find out today. If they get this work done, I'll be stunned. It only took us 2 more days. Fine, let's say they do it and they get it done on Friday. Great. But if it isn't, the governor's not going to call a special session on Memorial Day. He'll say, okay, next week. Next week doesn't make a difference compared to 2 weeks, right?
But more of these vacations and weddings and graduations and foreign trips and all that sort of stuff. And when you've got these margins, it does matter. And so, people are going to be motivated to get it done. And I don't know if they can, but the motivation level is high right now.
Then kind of like betting on your Minnesota Timberwolves win or losses, if I gave you $100 and you're going to have to bet, it's illegal to bet in Minnesota, people. Don't do this. It's hypothetical. Everywhere else in the country can. It's hypothetical. Let's
Monopoly money.
Yeah, Monopoly money. You got $100. what are you putting your money on whether they will get it done? This is my point. But will it include this Medicaid for illegal aliens in Minnesota? Will it include that? This is the sticking point we know of.
Yeah, there are so many more. My hunch is that no, that is done, because if they, because
those that are upset are just going to have to swallow that. And okay,
yeah.
Is it a matter of saying, but if we win next year, you'll be the first thing we put back on the list? Is that how you sell it? If that's probably the wrong word.
Maybe. And it is saying, listen, this is the reality. We couldn't keep everything, and everything that we would have had to have given up, any of them would be equally bad. And so this is where we are, and let's win elections, and let's, do things the way we think they should be done. And everybody's having that conversation right now. It's not just a DFL conversation.
No, fair enough. I like to say, I don't, they'll get her done. I just don't know what it'll look like. Thank you for coming to the show. I love having you on.
Always fun.
Senator Susan Kent on the Al Travis Show.